My name is Ruth Gardner. I am 74 years old, and the night I realized my daughter wanted me gone began with a door that refused to open. It did not rattle like something stuck. It held firm, as if a hand pressed from the other side. When you are young, you assume every barrier is mechanical. When you are old, you learn to listen to silence. And that night, silence spoke clearly. I pressed my palm flat against the wood. It did not budge. I tried again, slow, steady. The frame was solid, no shifting, no give. My joints ached, my shoulder throbbed from the pressure, and for a moment I wondered if age was finally stealing strength without asking permission. Then I leaned harder and felt something beneath the paint. Metal. Not hinges, nails. Fear did not come, not yet. At 74, I have learned that panic wastes breath. Instead, I stood still, letting the quiet settle around me. Houses have voices. They hum, they settle, they breathe. But that night, my bedroom held its breath. Then came the smell. Not warm like firewood, but sharp and sour, like something burning where it should not be. I moved to the window, fingers stiff against the latch. The frame stuck from old paint, but I lifted it inch by inch until air pushed through. Smoke slipped under the bedroom door, thin as a thread, crawling toward me like a truth that refused to stay hidden. There was no time to think. I picked up the wooden vanity chair, lifted it above my shoulder, and struck the glass. The first hit cracked, the second split. The third opened a hole large enough for escape. Shards cut my skin, but pain felt distant, like it belonged to someone younger. I climbed out carefully, lowering myself onto the narrow strip of dirt below. My knees trembled, but held. When I straightened, I looked across the lawn and saw her. My daughter, Vanessa. She stood near the hedge, beneath the porch light. Phone raised, camera recording. Not calling my name, not running toward me, just watching. Steady breathing, expression unreadable. And in that moment, I understood the fire behind me was not the real danger. The danger was raised in front of me, wrapped in my blood, holding a camera, waiting for a different outcome than this one. The first sound that cut through the night was not my own voice. It was the siren. Low at first, then rising, sharper, closer. Red light flashing across the yard, as if to highlight what was never meant to be seen. I stood in the cold air, smoke clinging to my clothes, heart steady in a way that surprised me. Vanessa lowered her phone only a fraction, just enough for her face to sharpen in the glow. Annoyance, not relief, not fear, as if I had arrived somewhere uninvited. A firefighter ran toward us, boots pounding across the grass. He looked first at me, not her. His eyes widened at the sight of glass on my sleeves, blood thin on my arm. "Ma'am, are you injured?" I could have said many things, but I kept it simple. I was inside. I climbed out through the window. The bedroom door was nailed shut. His brow shifted, shock, confusion, followed by something firmer, curiosity. He turned toward Vanessa for the first time. She stepped forward quickly, too quick, as if she needed to shape the narrative before it formed without her. "My mom has been tired lately," she said, her voice soft, shaky in the way someone practices in the mirror. She must have panicked, doors sticking, old houses. I looked at her and said nothing. Sometimes silence makes more noise than accusation. More firefighters rushed inside. Hoses roared. Water slammed against the hallway wall. Steam billowed from the window behind me like breath from something wounded. Within minutes, someone carried out the bedroom door. Charred edges, black center, mostly intact nails, visible bright against ruined wood. 3 of them driven at angles no one could mistake. A fire captain crouched beside the door, running gloved fingers over each nail. "Fresh," he muttered. "These were hammered in not long ago." Vanessa's jaw tensed. She crossed her arms and stared at the grass. The firefighter beside the captain lowered his voice, though all of us heard. This was no accident. I did not argue. I did not explain. I only stood with smoke in my hair and truth sitting quiet in my chest. Because sometimes truth only needs time to make itself undeniable. And in that moment, I knew the fire was only the beginning. The real blaze was everything still unspoken. The motel room I ended up in that night was nothing special. A single bed, thin carpet, a heater that rattled like loose bones. I sat on the edge of the mattress with my hands resting open on my knees, bleeding in small places where glass had kissed me on its way out. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and old air. Nothing like home, but it was quiet, and quiet was something I had not felt in a long time. Sleep did not come, not even a little. My eyes closed, but my mind stayed wide awake, replaying one moment again and again. Vanessa, standing in the yard with her phone raised, waiting, watching, steady as the fire behind me grew brighter. That look did not belong to a daughter afraid for her mother's life. It belonged to someone who expected a different ending. People think betrayal feels like fire, but it feels more like cold. It spreads slow, it settles deep. I tried to calm myself by remembering the years before all of this, back when Frank and I ran our small auto repair shop on the corner of Willow Street, tools clinking on concrete, oil under our fingernails, the kind of tired that comes from work, not worry. When we sold that shop after his death, Vanessa appeared more often, like heavy rain after a drought. You do not question it first, you just take it in. She offered to help with paperwork, with bills, with things she said were complicated for someone my age. And each time I felt a small tightness in my chest, like a string pulled too hard. I ignored it. I did not want conflict. I did not want distance. I told myself she was overwhelmed, misunderstood, pressured by life. Excuses come easy when you love someone. A soft knock at the door pulled me back. A man stood there, the fire investigator from earlier, holding a small paper bag and a thermos. He said he thought I might not have eaten. He said no one should face a night like this on an empty stomach. His eyes were kind in a way that felt foreign. After he left, I set the soup on the nightstand, but I did not eat it. I went to the bathroom instead. The mirror was cracked across one corner. I leaned in and looked at myself. Smoke tangled in my hair, wrinkles deeper, bruises beginning. And for the first time, I asked myself out loud, how long had I been shrinking to fit inside my daughter's life instead of my own? My reflection did not answer, but I knew the truth long before the words left my mouth. Morning came without mercy. I had not slept, yet I stood steadier than I had the night before. Something inside me had stopped bending. I called a cab just after sunrise and gave the driver one address, the bank on Riverbend Avenue. If the night had taken something from me, this morning I intended to take something back. The vault room was cold enough for my hands to stiffen, but the metal box felt familiar in my grip. Inside were the things most people throw away: overtime documents, receipts, signatures, numbers that look dull to anyone who never had to rebuild from loss. To me, they were proof that I existed beyond other people's doubt. The deed to the house, the papers from the sale of our auto shop, updated home insurance with my signature clear and dated. Records Vanessa never bothered to ask about because she assumed I wouldn't remember. She never understood that I forget people far sooner than I forget paperwork. Mr. Coleman, the bank manager, stepped into the vault doorway. He knew me for years. Frank, too. His voice was low and careful when he spoke to me. The fire investigator called. He said they wanted to be sure you had full access to your files. I'm sorry about what happened. Everyone was, I told him, except her. He did not push. He let silence stay respectful instead of heavy. I gathered the documents into a neat stack and held them close, like armor. Then I headed to my next stop, an office above the courthouse where the floors creaked because they had heard more truth than most living rooms ever will. Michael Harris was waiting. He stood when I walked in, older now but sharp-eyed. He did not fill the air with comfort. He let me speak. I told him about the nails in the door, the smoke, the window, the phone in Vanessa's hand, the years of quiet control disguised as help. He did not interrupt, he only wrote. When I finished, he leaned back and said the words without flinching. "Ruth, your daughter tried to kill you. This is not confusion, this is criminal." The sentence did not break me, because the breaking had already happened the night before, in the yard when she watched me crawl out of my own burning house. Michael slid a stack of forms toward me: power of attorney, updated, will, trust protection. Protection. I signed them all. My hand trembled, but it did not stop. He asked if I was sure, and I said the truest thing I could. I am 74 years old. If I do not protect myself now, when will I? When I walked out of that office, the cold air bit my cheeks, but the ground felt solid beneath me for the first time in years. I sat on a bench outside the courthouse that afternoon, watching people hurry through their own lives. Papers tucked under arms, coffee cups cooling in hands, everyone moving forward without noticing the way the world had shifted around me overnight. I should have felt alone, but instead there was a strange calm in my chest, like the quiet a river makes when it finally smooths its stones. My phone buzzed once. A single message lit the screen from a name I did not expect. Chloe. "Grandma, can I come see you?" My granddaughter had always been gentle, observant in the way young people sometimes are when they have seen more than adults think they do. I told her where I was. 20 minutes later, she appeared at the end of the walkway, breath visible in the cold, coat too thin for the wind. She ran the last few steps and sat beside me, without speaking. "Are you all right?" she asked. Then she swallowed harder than the question required. I told her the truth. "Yes, I am all right, but only because I am still here." Chloe looked down at her hands, twisting in her sleeves. She said, "Mom has been acting strange. She told me you were tired yesterday, told me not to bother you, but the way she said it sounded wrong, and I kept thinking about it all night." Her voice cracked, and she reached into her pocket slowly, like someone pulling out something sharp. She handed me her phone. I did not need to scroll. The preview alone held more truth than any fire report. "Tyler, everything is ready. After tonight, we can finally breathe." The words sat heavy between us, not dramatic, not emotional, just planned breath, as a future purchased with my absence. Chloe wiped her cheek quickly, pretending wind caused the tears I wanted to believe. "She was just stressed," she whispered. I did not want to think she could. I placed my hand over hers, fragile, overyoung. She did not move away. She leaned into me like she used to during thunderstorms when she was small and afraid of noise. I told her the truth. Could hurt, but it could also save. She nodded slowly, understanding more than she said out loud. "Whatever you need, I am with you," she said. And for the first time since smoke curled under my bedroom door, I did not feel like a woman walking alone into the flames. I felt like someone walking forward with a witness and a reason to keep going. The motel felt smaller the second night, not because the room had changed, but because I had. The quiet was no longer heavy. I was sitting with a cup of weak coffee when the knock came, fast, sharp, impatient. Not the kind a stranger makes, the kind of knock that feels like a demand. Ruth opened the door. "Vanessa." I opened it only as wide as my hand. She stood in the hallway without a coat, hair wild, eyes red like she had been crying or yelling or both. Tyler hovered behind her, hands tucked into his pockets like he wished he were anywhere else. "Mom, this has gone too far," she said. "The insurance investigators are asking questions. The fire report looks bad. You need to fix this. Tell them you panicked. Tell them the door was stuck. Old wood swells, you know that." Her voice trembled, but not with fear, with frustration. Frustration that her plan no longer fit the story she wanted. "You want me to lie?" I said. "I want you to help us," she snapped, then softened the edges of her voice like sugar hiding vinegar. "This situation can still be salvaged. We can rebuild. We can all breathe again, but only if you say you are confused." Confused? I thought. Of the nails, the smoke under the door, her phone raised like a witness she expected to record my final moments.
"I am not confused," I said quietly. She stared at me stunned, like the ground had moved under her feet. "You are ruining everything," she hissed. "You are destroying your own family." "No," I said. "You destroyed it when you locked a door and waited for fire to finish what you started." Vanessa reached for the door to push it open, but my hand held firm. She was surprised by how much strength I still had. Even at 74, a spine can grow back. "Mom, please," she whispered. "If you do not help me, I could go to prison." "I do not want to see you there," I said. And it was true, but wanting did not change what she had done. She waited for me to bend again like I always had. I did not. I closed the door slow enough for her to feel it, but firm enough that she understood. She knocked once more, softer than silence. Sometimes the loudest act of survival is a quiet door finally closing. 2 days later, I found myself sitting across a metal desk at the police station, fingers resting on a stack of forms that would decide the future of everyone involved. A detective recorded my statement, while another took photographs of the cuts on my hands, the bruises forming across my arms. None of it hurt as much as remembering the look in Vanessa's eyes when the fire rose behind me. When everything was documented, the detective folded his notebook and said the words, "Without ceremony, your daughter and her partner will face charges: attempted arson, attempted insurance fraud, unlawful confinement, endangering a dependent adult." No shock, no denial, only a slow nod. Some truths don't shatter, they settle. Legal processes move like winter river, steady, relentless, never rushed. Michael Harris and I met twice that week, reviewing evidence, updating my will, removing Vanessa's name from every document that once tied her to my security. Chloe's name replaced it, not as reward, but as acknowledgement that respect still lived somewhere in our family line. Meanwhile, contractors walked through my damaged house, marking walls with chalk, measuring beams, tapping wood to find what could be saved. The structure would survive, they said. The foundation held remarkably well. A sentence like that means more to a woman who survived fire than it does to anyone else. I watched as insulation was replaced, as smoke stains were scraped away, as water-damaged boards were lifted, like old memories let go. Instead of recreating the past, I chose new paint colors, lighter than before, warm, a soft sage for the bedroom, a deeper tone for the hallway, clean, honest, nothing hidden beneath. One afternoon, the foreman paused and said, "You took care of this place. It wants to stand." I smiled, a small one, the kind that comes from truth finally finding its voice. The house came back to life slowly, room by room, board by board, like a body healing after trauma. The smell of fresh paint replaced smoke, dust replaced ash. The world did not look the same, but neither did I. Survival is not loud. It does not announce itself. It rebuilds quietly and waits for you to notice you are standing again. And when I walked through that nearly restored hallway, touching the new doorframe with steady fingers, I knew the fire had not ended me. It had exposed what needed to burn so something stronger could remain. The day I moved back into my house, there was no celebration, no balloons, no welcome home sign, just a key in my hand and a front door that opened easily, freely, like it remembered what it was built for. I stepped inside slowly, each footfall soft against new carpet. The air smelled clean, fresh paint with a hint of wood and winter sunlight. The bedroom was the last place I entered. The old door, the one that once held me in, was gone. In its place stood a new one, smooth, polished, unscarred by nails or smoke. I pressed my palm against the surface. The wood was cool, but not unfriendly. I felt no tremor of fear, only a steady pulse of something I had not allowed myself to feel in years, controlled dignity, the right to take up space in my own life. I walked to the window, the same window I climbed through to stay alive. Outside, the lawn was calm, a breeze moving across it like forgiveness without forgetting. I sat at the edge of the bed and let my shoulders drop, as if I had been holding up the ceiling for decades and finally remembered I didn't have to. People think revenge is fire and fury, but sometimes revenge is choosing to live well, choosing peace over permission, choosing to walk back into your life without asking if you are allowed. If you are listening to this and you see yourself somewhere in my story, hear me clearly. You do not have to wait for a fire to start to protect your heart. You do not have to shrink to keep the peace. You do not have to stay small for people who expect you to disappear. Rebuild, even if it's slow, even if you shake, even if no one stands and applauds when you unlock the door. The quiet kind of survival is still survival. The gentle kind of victory is still victory. If this story reached you, if it opened something inside you, I invite you to stay with me here. Share it with someone you think might need it. Leave a comment if you have ever rebuilt from ashes, or if you are learning how to now. Sometimes the strongest revenge is simply this: rebuilding the life they hoped you would never return.